Here's a new book from Lizzie Mary Cullen called Bon Voyage, a coloring book for lovers of all things French. So this is by a publisher, John Murray Learning Publishing, which is different than her other books. So it's more the Joanna Basford size. It's not the oversized ones that she usually does, which are a little bit bigger. These are a tiny bit smaller, but still a nice big square size. And what is in here are French proverbs in Bon Voyage, and they are in French. So if you are French speaking, you're going to enjoy this book immensely. Goes into, it says, colorful proverbs complement the visuals and offer words of wit, wisdom, and humor, as well as a unique view into French values and traditions. Each illustration contains a hidden object, adding a touch of intrigue and discovery that every exotic journey needs. So, if you're a learner or lover of the French language, you'll find that most of these objects are closely related to the proverb's meaning, helping you to learn and remember the words. I'm not going to try to speak French. So, and then once again, in this book, like she did in Buena Vista, which is all about Spanish proverbs, in the back is a translation of each proverb that she is doing here. So, so here we go. It's got Lizzie Mary Cullen's very iconic swirly, curly, swervy style. So these are going to be, places and things in France. Wine, of course. Yes, I've been to France, and there's lots of wine drinking there. It looks like there's some double page spreads, but mostly they are one page per idea. Per proverb. There we go. Couldn't come up with that word. So one page per proverb. And then, like I say, you can look at those in the back if you don't happen to speak French. So this will be kind of a fun book, internationally, I think. It's got nice thick paper, as you can probably hear as I'm turning the pages. There's another double page spread. French book doesn't seem to have quite as many people in it and more wine. So, there you go. That's always good. People really love to use the Derwent Inktense pencils in Lizzie's books because their paper is nice enough that you can use those, and the water isn't going to ruin the paper as long as you use a fairly dry method of watercolor. I know that sounds kind of weird, dry watercolor, but that's really what you kind of have to use in coloring books that aren't specifically on watercolor paper. I have a whole page of that on coloringbookaddict.com talking about the techniques that you need to use if you're going to do coloring, if you're going to do watercolors in coloring books. So check that out if you're feeling like you want to give that a try. And right now I've injured my thumb, my coloring thumb, which is very upsetting. And so I've kind of had to figure out things to do other than my trusty colored pencils. So I have been playing with, in fact, I ordered a couple of different kinds of watercolor paints. And so kind of excited to try some new things. Okay, so here's our translation. We've got the proverb, the translation, and the English equivalent. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see. An abundance of goods does no harm. The English equivalent of that is plenty is no plague. I'm not quite sure. Each thing in its time, all in good time. Cross that bridge when you come to it. So it gives you some different different versions of the same proverb. So it shows you page numbers, proverb, translation, English equivalent. And then here in the back, you've got your little minis of each picture. And in the circle, it shows you where the hidden images are, where the hidden items are. So if you you're not sure if you found the hidden elements, then you can come back here and look. I also like to use these little minis to test out my colors and ideas for what I want to maybe do on a picture, and kind of gives me an idea before I actually put my pencil or pen or watercolor paints to the page. I can kind of play back here, and it's also a great place to test to make sure whatever ones that you're using aren't bleeding. You've probably, figured that out in your journey now. Some will bleed, some won't. Some paper's better than others. So but it's always a great idea to just go to this back page and play with that. She's acknowledging the beautiful country of France, which, yes, I've been to France. It's absolutely beautiful. And unlike everybody that says the French are rude to Americans, I didn't have that at all. They were all very wonderful and helpful and beautiful people, just like you find all over the world. So check out that new French coloring book, Bon Voyage by Lizzie Mary Cullen. It's available in Amazon, a book depository, and in your local... I haven't seen it in Michael's or Hobby Lobby yet, but I'm sure it's at Barnes & Noble. So check that out. I think you'll really enjoy it.